We often hear from Roman Catholic apologists like Gary Michuta that the early church fathers believed the deuterocanonical books are scripture. What is often not shared is that none of the early church fathers prior to Augustine in the late 4th century communicated in their writings that all of the Deuterocanon was scripture. And even Augustine of Hippo is questionable that he embraced the exact same canon later defined by the Council of Trent in the 16th century. And some of these same early church fathers and other writers like Origen and Tertullian quoted books not found in Roman Catholic Bibles as scripture. For example, First Clement in the 1st century and the Shepherd of Hermas in the 2nd century cited the apocryphal book of Eldad and Modad as scripture. Irenaeus, a 2nd century doctor of the Roman Catholic Church, in his work against heresies called the Shepherd of Hermas scripture. Also in the 2nd century, Clement of Alexandria quoted from the Assumption of Moses and the Apocalypse of Zephaniah from his Stromata, calling them both scripture, as well as the Apocalypse of Elias from his Exhortation. Both the Epistle of Barnabas in the 2nd century and Tertullian from the 3rd century in his works on the resurrection of the flesh and on women's dress, they both called 1st Enoch scripture. In the 3rd century, Origen of Alexandria used the phrase "it is written," a term used to introduce a writing as scripture to describe the Epistle of Barnabas. Athanasius of Alexandria, a 4th century doctor of the Roman Catholic Church, in his 39th Festal letter included most of the books from the Hebrew Bible and the Deuterocanon in his first tier, which he wrote doctrine was to be based on, and in his second tier, which the church should read from. But he also included the Didache and the Shepherd of Hermas in his second tier too, and he placed 1st and 2nd Maccabees in his third tier, which he specifically called apocrypha, meaning not scripture. However, you can find identical Protestant Old Testament canons as early as the 2nd century and identical Protestant New Testaments, same as the Roman Catholic New Testament, as early as the 3rd century. So while you can find early church fathers who believed individual books from the Deuterocanon were scripture, you can't find any who believed they all were scripture until at least the end of the 4th century, if not later. To see evidence from Augustine himself that he did not embrace the identical canon defined later by the Council of Trent, which provides indirect evidence the late 4th century church councils of Hippo and Carthage were not identical with Trent either, click the link on the screen.